Joe Goldberg is back and starting a new life in the United Kingdom after his bloody and dark past in the United States. Some fans might think that the season is a soft reboot of the show, but there are some new and interesting dynamics in play. For starters, Joe is living under a new identity and is trying his best to forget his past. This is difficult for him as we learn that he's still struggling with his addiction to social media and the internet and of course killing. He previously tried to start a relationship with Marianne, played by Tati Gabrielle. Marianne was very different from his original wife, Love Quinn, played by Victoria Pedretti. Marianne is more guarded and skeptical of Joe. This is all understandable given what Joe did to Love at the end of season 3. Joe, however, tries to prove to Marianne that he is a changed man. He even lets her walk away after a brief encounter. Meanwhile, he's also dealing with the repercussions of his past. Elliot was a trained mercenary sent by the Quinns, but offered Joe a deal. Kill Marianne and tie up some loose ends and he will be able to live his new life. Ultimately, Joe refused, but he did take Marianne's necklace to prove to the hitman sent by the Quinns that he's going to start his new life. Now as Jonathan Moore, Joe has landed a job in the middle of high-class London and has gained a new student named Nadia, played by Amy Lee Hickman. Joe starts to grow suspicious of Nadia when he realizes how much she loves murder mysteries. Kate Galvin, played by Charlotte Ritchie, is also catching his eye romantically. Jonathan Moore meets Kate, who runs an art gallery. Jonathan joins her and her elite circle of friends, and this kind of bothers them. Joe also meets Rhys Montrose, played by Ed Spielers. In addition to his humble roots, Rhys has royal family connection. He is running for mayor and is starting to form some rivals within the city, especially with the relevancy of an Eat the Rich killer. Lady Phoebe, played by Tilly Keeper, is Kate Galvin's closest friend in London. She initially was wary of Jonathan, but comes to accept him and even befriends him in the very end. However, Lady Phoebe's boyfriend Adam Pratt, played by Lucas Gage, went in a darker direction and even accused Jonathan of the killings. While Walker Burton, played by Ben Wiggins, is another guy of the group who has disdain for Moore's new arrival to the group. He even tries to kill Jonathan in the middle of a retreat out in the outskirts of London. This angers Kate so much and embarrasses Roald so much that he flees to Germany. His disappearance opens the door for Kate and Jonathan to start growing close. All of this is occurring while Joe gets strange messages from a stalker that is seeking him out. The stalker wants to expose Joe and keeps sending threats to people around him, including Kate and Marianne. It is also the stalker that is killing the rich around the town. Joe starts investigating who in Kate's circles might be the killer since they've zeroed in on him. The stalker doesn't stop and continues to haunt Joe privately and threatens to reveal who he is to the public. Joe's happy European holiday is officially over as he enters into detective mode for the most of the season. Eventually, Joe circles down to Rhys Montrose since he has a motive to kill rich elitists who might be going against him. And as Joe hunts down Rhys, he gets closer to Kate Lockwood. And despite the obstacles and his initial resistance, the two were instantly paired. A connection the two shared was that they both did horrible things in the past, but in part 1 of season 4, the two were kind of at odds. Kate revealed her father was a corporate war hawk and is ruthless in making the most profit, no matter the shortcut. She was connected and oversaw the installation of cheap and low-quality pipes to cut costs. The shortcut that she took led to the spread of cancer to hundreds of kids. Kate tells Joe she has this dark past and also tries to do better. The two would fall for each other, and Kate starts envisioning a future with her new lover. Joe is trying to juggle all of this craziness that is happening and falling in love with Kate, and he runs into more conflict within this circle of elite friends. The show also brought back some surprising characters from past seasons. It was awesome to see both Victoria Pedretti and Elizabeth Lale as their respective characters. They added even more layers to the inner conflict and turmoil Joe struggles through mentally. As I see it, the first half of the season follows a traditional formula. Joe starts new, does well in his fresh new start of life, tries hard to avoid love, falls in love, and falls hard. I really like the inclusion of Tati Gabrielle's Marianne character, especially in the second half of season 4. She's the only big connecting piece from Joe's past that is present in this season. And the second half was a wild and unraveling events from this season, specifically from Marianne's perspective. While Joe was living a wild lie of a life, she was trying to will herself through the entire thing. I mentioned her character's perspective of events because Joe was actually living through the events from a different perspective. His perspective was the focus of the first half of season 4, obviously with the killer going on and stalker, while the second half focused on the unraveling of the events, including Joe's persona. It was admirable to see how she overcame Joe with her wits and determination. And even towards the very end, when Joe thinks that Marianne is dead, she finds a way to fool him and escape his control. We later meet Tom Lockwood, played by Greg Kinnear. Tom Lockwood has incentives for being anti-Montrose. Montrose plays himself as a representative of the middle and working class. Meanwhile, Lockwood and his financial interests are immediately at odds with Montrose, and so he seeks Joe out. He also puts his daughter Kate down whenever he can, while Tom Lockwood tells Kate that her entire journey in the United Kingdom, when she thought that she was doing solo, was actually orchestrated by his hands. This angers Kate so much, and her father continues to demand she return home to take over the company. She rejects his offer over and over again, and even when he sends a boy to try to woo her in, she immediately notices that it's his doing. Joe was also realizing that Lockwood was using him against Montrose to kind of get him out of the picture. Joe tries to manipulate Tom but ends up killing him along with Rhys Montrose. Having remorse for his actions, Joe steps off the ledge to take his own life. He wakes up in the hospital and isn't dead. He's greeted by Kate, and she tells him about how she's inherited her father's wealth and wants the truth from Jonathan. Joe reveals his real self and that he was the real killer the whole time. I assume she's also aware that Joe also killed her father, but since they ended things in an unfortunate spot, that subject won't be sad right now. Kate is focused on taking over her father's company and wants Joe to return with her to New York City, where the offices are located. She and Joe do a cover story to help bring Joe back into the public eye, and Joe tells the news that he fled Los Angeles after his wife took her own life and tried to kill Joe. Joe reveals his fake identity was a way to flee the wrath of his ex-wife's family. Now, Kate and Joe have their eyes focused on the future and see each other as a chance for redemption. But Joe isn't exactly reformed just yet. He ended up killing Nadia's boyfriend after exploiting her investigation of him. Joe is happy to be back in New York City and far from the problems of the past, but he burnt a lot of bridges before crossing the pond back home. That's season 4 of Used Netflix. While the show wasn't firing on all cylinders as the season passed, the show still featured an original setting, but I'll be honest and say that the constant plot twists were becoming too monotonous for me. While the show was known for its twists and turns, and I think the crew tried their hardest at pacing it well at the very end, the ending just felt unfair and deserved in my opinion. Basically because of Joe's actions at the very end, I felt like there was no really redemption story to him, and the whole purpose of him traveling to the UK, is kind of wasted at the very end too, because he just goes back home. However, I do like the show's parallels so well with its characters. The parallels of the dark past lives between Joe and Kate shared. Similarities exist between both characters' efforts to do good, but ultimately both characters can't help but revive some of the same thoughts and actions from their past. Penn Badgley was solid in her role, and I thought the season still revolved well around this character. Joe and Love Quinn had amazing chemistry on the screen, but both were psychotic killer types. I hope that the show doesn't repeat season 3 in terms of the possible future for Joe and Kate. I think there is still some time to write something more ambitious for season 5. The performance by Tati Gabrielle was a major highlight, and bringing her back into the show was an excellent choice. I'm glad to see that she's one of the very few to escape the chaos of Joe Goldberg. As for the season, I would give it a good 7.7 out of 10. Not firing all cylinders like earlier on the show's run, but still a worthwhile addition to the overall show. It'll be fascinating to see how the show concludes for another season, but let me know what you guys think of season 4 of You. Did the latest Netflix season quench your thirst for mystery thrillers? Share all those thoughts down below. Thank you for watching today's video, and I hope that you enjoyed today's topic. If you could hit that sub button, that would be awesome. Hit that like button and boost my video up on the algorithm. Click that bell so you don't miss any of my videos that get uploaded. And if you have some time to spare, check out some of these videos on your screen right now.